as it is today. So I actually had to go to the library to pick up books and read articles about pregnancy and birth. So I began to read and research, and I came to realize that the best thing for me and what resonated with me and what made me feel comfortable and at ease was to have a midwife. Now, back in the mid-90s, midwives were hard to find in New York State. In other states, of course, no. In other cultures, of course, no. But in New York State at that time, it was very hard. But luckily, I was living in New Jersey at the time, and there was a hospital who actually had midwives in Brooklyn. And let me just say that I used to live in Brooklyn, so that's where I looked in Brooklyn for a midwife. But due to the fact that this was my first child, me and my partner decided that our child needed to be around trees and grass and away from the chaos that is in the 5 boroughs. So we moved to New Jersey, but I was not going to give up the fact that I found midwives and met midwives at that hospital and was seeing them for my prenatal care. I was not going to let the move stop me from continuing to have a birth with a midwife. So I was determined, and so was he, to stay with the midwives, even though we had located to New Jersey, because it was important to me as well as to him. However, don't be nervous, because on a good day from where we lived in New Jersey, we could get to Brooklyn in 20 minutes to 30 minutes. On a really bad day, to get from New Jersey to Brooklyn, it could take 2 hours. But once again, we were young, we were in our 20s, and we were determined to make it work and to make sure that our first experience was with a midwife. So, as I saw the midwives for the first time, I was very excited, and I already did my own research and my own studies. So I knew what I wanted, and when I expressed that to my midwives, they were impressed are slow and long in between the next contraction. And then it gets stronger and the contractions come faster, where there is shorter space to relax and to breathe and be comfortable. So I was in tune to it, my body, to realize what my pain threshold was, just based on past childhood experiences, how I deal with pain, how I function with pain. Do I curse when I'm in pain? Do I look for others for help when I'm in pain? So I started to analyze me and analyze who I am and how I react and how I respond to things that I may not be able to control, as well as the physical effect of feeling pain. It's something that I may not be able to control, because once again, this is my first child, and looking at elders and asking elders or those who have already had a child for information, for advice, I did not feel like I got the information that I needed. If anything, it was more on the fear fact or lack of information. So I had to throw all those negative thoughts about labor, other people's experiences about labor, out the door, and kind of go within to find out what it is that I wanted, what it is that I needed, and what makes me feel more comfortable. So it's a early morning. The Venus star is not even out yet. The birds aren't even thinking about getting up. And everybody that's in a club is going home. That's what type of morning or time of morning that it was on a Saturday. And I woke up because I felt different. My body felt different. My spirit felt different. Everything felt different. And I analyzed it for about an hour, because I didn't want to make a big, oh my gosh, moment. I wanted to be sure and analyze myself first. When I came to the conclusion that, yep, it is time, I woke up my partner. It's still wee hours in the morning, and I said, it's time. And he was up and ready to support, but I said, go back to sleep, because it does not make sense for you to exhaust your energy when we know this is going to be a long ride. So it's kind of like when you're on a road trip and it's just two people driving or two people in the car, and you tell the other person, don't stay up with me, go to sleep. That way you can have your energy when it's your turn to drive. So that was the mind state that I was in, and we already talked about that previously, so he already knew that the more he can get some rest, the more available he can be within the whole birthing process. So it was in my plan to journal everything. So I got, of course, my journal and my pen, So that day, I decided that it's time to live my life still. Keep moving. The more you do things in early stages of labor, the easier it goes. Instead of just sitting there and waiting and letting time go by, it kind of drives you crazy. So we already had an appointment to visit the car dealer because it was a new car. Because we only got it, of course, because we was having a child. As anyone knows, in New York City, New Jersey, the lower parts of Connecticut, Pennsylvania, you don't really need a car if you are Long Island, of course. If you are close to New York City, because there's means of transportation, fast means of transportation on a good day that can get you to where you want to get to. Mind you, it might take some time, but you can still get there in a decent amount of time than if you was to drive and deal with all the traffic and stress. So we went to the car dealer first thing in the morning as soon as they opened up, because of course, I've been awake. And as we're sitting there, we're finalizing some paperwork, I'm still having contractions. The people who worked there was amazed. What? She's having contractions in the dealership. So that drew a lot of attention to me at the dealership. A lot of the men, a lot of the women, even people who were there just to buy, a car or whatever, browse. It was like they knew it wasn't the type of contractions where it's like, ouch, like you're verbalizing it, or you're grabbing onto things. And those who had babies, you know what I'm talking about. Those who watch TV, you know what I'm talking about, or seen a birth, you know what I'm talking about. It wasn't that type. It was kind of like, I can deal with it, it's kind of like a bad period cramp, where your face kind of go, and you might sit a certain way, you might walk a little funny. So it was kind of like that, and everybody knew what was going on. But I explained to them why I was here, and they kind of looked at me like, okay, we never heard of this before. Normally women will rush to the hospital, and I'm like, no, I'd rather keep my mind occupied on other things, like finishing up this contract and wiggling my baby out as I walk to the car and to the dealership and walk back into the house and up the stairs. That's actually helping my labor progress, and it's not, bad weather where I can slip and fall, So they once again were amazed and even made a joke like, if I had the baby here, they'll give the car for free, So I should have just went in that bathroom and stayed or something, right? Until the baby came out. ground, and we figured if we hit the road with all the bumps and the wiggles and the sideways tilts and the bumps up and down and all that, that will help ripen the cervix due to the force of gravity, and also keep me distracted off of the uterus and more in a lighter tone, a lighter environment, so that I'm not clenching down below. I'm more letting it open and be free to open. So we did do that, and it was great. And I waited out through the entire night. I'm talking to the midwives, checking in with them, and they're, good job, and, over the phone, and it was great. But I felt that what I was going through, that I could manage, that I could get through it. So since I was at peace at what was going on, and I knew that I was doing the work and going through the contractions or the waves and going with the rhythm of it all, eating when I wanted to, napping when I wanted to, going out into the environment when I wanted to, taking a long shower and sitting on the toilet forever, whatever I did, I was was doing my breathing, going within, knowing that this too shall pass, just like the last one, and the one before that, and the one before that. And if I keep this up, at the end, I get a reward, right? So that was the mindset. Then, as Sunday mornings start to come, I did feel a difference. However, in the morning, as I told my partner, it's time to get ready to go, he went to get the car prepared to leave, and the car did not start. The chip was lost. If anybody knows of cars back in the 90s, some of them had chips to start the car, and if it's gone, there's no hope but to get another chip or to find it. I don't know what and who and how a conclusion between me and my partner was to get aluminum foil to start the car, as if the foil was going to replace and do the same thing that the chip was going to do, but that was a conclusion that should be done. So, for all of you who know cars or anything electronic, that is all of you, aluminum foil to replace your chip, it's not gonna work. Well, there might be somebody from TikTok who knows how to do that, but back then, yeah. Meanwhile, while he's outside figuring out, tampering with the car to get it started, I'm feeling like I need to get a movement on, going to the bathroom, getting my clothes on, because at this point, I really ain't got no clothes on. And a contraction hit, and when it hit, it felt like my whole lower half was on fire, and around my behind, around the vaginal area was on fire. There was another change that happened that I've never experienced since I've been going through and riding these waves. And of course, I'm like, hold up. There was no cell phones back then. There was only beepers and pagers and things. Well, there were cell phones, but it wasn't so popular where everybody has one. They were more for business, top CEOs and rappers and stuff. But, so to call him was kind of hard. His page was upstairs. We did have a balcony, which was great, because I was able to go out to the balcony and kind of, see what's going on and get his attention. So we call our good friends with the red car, the red sports car, and I'm like, this is perfect. Because not only, are we going to Brooklyn, but I get to bump all the way to Brooklyn. And that's really making, my service of it, not realizing that I can have the baby in the car without it bumping at this point, right? So I'm excited to get in the red car. My body is going through a big shift, like huge waves are coming. Strong, and as they're strong, I feel like I'm strong, but yet weak at the same time, because I got to the point where I couldn't hold on. Like I wanted to grip, like all my power was just going into my uterus. And I struggled to put on my clothes. I put on a old high school t-shirt, my graduation t-shirt, which was heather gray and red. I threw on this African printed, it was like one of those blooming dresses. I don't remember what they were called back in the day. I put down time for that, and that was like black and gold. So of course I'm not even matching, because one looks fancy, one looks jacked up, and I'm just putting, a heather gray t-shirt with this black and gold African print, nice little blooming maxi type thing, and I felt a drop, and it wasn't as painful as that burn, that fire, but I felt the drop, and I knew a change was coming again. When I felt the drop, I initially went and told my partner, okay, it's game time, Meanwhile, our two good friends came through, and they were sitting, on our bed. We had a queen size bed at the moment, and that will make sense later on. And they're sitting on the bed, and I'm in the walk-in closet getting dressed, finishing the dress, and another wave hit, and instantly I said, get on your hands and knees. And the reason why I went instantly to my hands and knees, because I have decided earlier in my pregnancy that that's the way I wanted to birth my first baby. So I instantly dropped to my hands and knees, and I started to, whimper, kind of like a whimper, and my partner came in and saw me, went, grabbed box cutters, was hot. Okay, and their whole excuse was because she wasn't born in the hospital, she could be infected with something or caught something, so we had to keep her safe. Because she was in the hospital, we have to monitor a little bit more and yada yada yada. And I'm just like, she's perfectly fine. She doesn't need to be in an incubator. But of course, I'm in my 20s, I'm young. There's only so much debating, that could be done, especially back in the mid 90s. So every moment that I had, I took her out to the incubator. Before a maternity room in service was in, I asked to have her at all times. The only time that she was rolled away was when she had her shots and things like that. The pediatrician checkups and things, but a room-in was not popular back in the mid-90s. It is now, where moms can choose to have a baby in their room, 24 hours a day. So, that's what I decided, and especially with her being incubator and them not following what I wanted, and that she's fine, and all the medical tests, the Apgar score is high, her weight is good, color, all that is good, breathing so high. So I had, took her out as much as possible. She was actually born with 11 fingers, so during that process, they did have to use kind of like dental floss, and it just wrapped it around, the base of her finger. It was like on the second pinky, it was going on the pinky area, and that actually, fell off because, of course, a lot of blood going into that finger. So that was something that I didn't read about, didn't prepare for, was a shock, and was questioning, how and why does this happen? But, we'll talk about that in a later video, because now I do know why, other kids have extra limbs, etc. But, all in all, it was a wonderful story. We called the midwives. The midwives were so happy, but so disappointed at the same time, because they looked forward to being a part of the experience, and they totally missed out because my body was not telling me to hurry up and go. I was rushing to anyone, especially since I felt comfortable where I was and I was handling things. So they were so excited, to the point that they coined my daughter the closet baby. And so when I went to go visit for on the postpartum checkup, they had a little shrine on the wall of the closet baby. So it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. It is a story that I share to my clients and to my students, because knowledge is key, but also deciphering what is for you and what isn't for you is also key. Just because someone does it this way and that way does not mean that you have to do it this way and that way, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to go through the experience. Yes, there are bystanders that go through the experience, but you're the one that's the center of the experience, and you're the one that's giving all the effects of the experience. So, your choice.